I'm Chris Hahn, the Aggressive Progressive. Check out a new episode of the Aggressive Progressive podcast every Tuesday. You know, the election is heating up just as the year is winding down. Stick with me. I'll tell you the truth as I see it. Download the Aggressive Progressive on Pandora or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general, the new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Miami-based rapper Trick Daddy has been a platinum-selling hip-hop artist for over 14 years. In his new autobiography, Magic City, Trials of a Native Son, due out early November, Trick Daddy and co-author Peter Bailey details Trick's childhood growing up in poverty. His mother is a single parent, and his father is a pimp. Maurice Young, a.k.a. Trick Daddy, is forced to grow up very fast and quickly finds himself leading a life of crime and incarceration. Trick Daddy's story should not be construed as glorification. Maurice Young tells the story with a considerable amount of sober introspection. His intention seems to be more than just retelling the life of his story. With this book and the work he does in Miami, Trick Daddy's goal is to deter the youth from the same road he took. Trick, welcome to And You Don't Stop.
No problem, man.
So why the book? Why the autobiography now?
I want everybody to understand what I've been through and let them know that I'm not just somebody that rap music. As far as my music is concerned, I always tell people, if I write a song about killing, I also would do a song on the album about dying.
Right.
And I also would do a song on the album about what happens when you die, or what happens when you kill somebody. Like one of my earlier songs in my career was They Don't Live That Long. And I want people to know that, okay, thugs don't live that long. So if you want to be one of us, just look for a short life. Now, it's not, thugs is not a gang.
What was your story? What was your defining moment that stopped you? Like, just stopped you totally from doing the life that you were doing?
When you're 15 years old, you're inside the prison cage, and they tell you, take everything you got belongs to us now. And they call you boy. They tell you to strip necks, strip naked, bend over and cough. And they cut your hair against the grain and talk to you any type of way. And you feeling the mosquitoes bite, and you're aggravated by the sand mice and the nets. This like the time of martial law. My defining moment was when I realized that by the age of 16, before 17 years old, I was in prison for the second time. And while in prison, my brother got killed, and he was like the only person that I could ever depend on and call on besides the streets. And I said, okay, now all I have is the streets. So now I have to control the streets I walk. And the defining moment was getting out of prison in January 25th of 95 with no address to put on the early release form, with no phone number to give them, with no residence to tell my probation officer where I was going to be living at. And I realized, now you grown. Mm. And I know the difference between Maurice and Trick Daddy.
What's the difference?
The difference is Maurice is the man, and Maurice is the struggle. Maurice is the son. Maurice is the brother. Maurice is the father. But Trick Daddy only get recognition for being a thug or the rapper or the rich guy, the guy that lives in a big house, the guy that drives a nice car, the guy with the jury, the guy on TV, MTV, BT. And I'm more respected as Maurice. I'm not dependent on as much. Definitely not criticized as much.
The whole book describes this enormous pressure and role you already had to take as a man at the age of, I think, earlier than like 10. I mean, unfortunately your dad was not directly in your picture and your mom was kind of on her own. When did that become just too much for you? Like, you know, when did you just have to break down? I mean, did you have besides yourself, did you have another outlet that you could go to?
It all started as a young boy in prison. I'm a teenage prisoner. I'm in prison, incarcerated, and I find myself not worrying about when I was going to get out, not worrying about what did I do to get there, but to the point where I'm like, what my mama gonna do now? I'm like, oh my God, this ain't supposed to be like this. I was in prison at 15 years old, worrying about how my mama was gonna manage.
Mm-hmm. I noticed in the book, and I don't know if this was on purpose, but I swear I double checked and triple checked that you refer to your mom by her first name as Pearl. Is there a reason behind that? I mean, sometimes when she's there's
a reason behind that because it was like my dad has his own identity. My dad's a thug, a 5-time convicted felon. Not only that, my daddy always had money, and at a certain age in the book, I got caught selling weed in school, and I had to go live with my father. At the time, my daddy wasn't even out of prison. My uncle came and act like he was my daddy. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to know, like, I'm not Charles' son, I'm Pearl's son. Even in my book, when my mom read my book, she gonna take it into consideration. She gonna comment to me about, she gonna feel like I'm ashamed of her or my parents, and there's gonna be probably out of 150 family members, there's gonna probably be 5 of them that's gonna say I'm talking bad about my mama, but I am from my mama.
And you definitely come back to that. I mean, you talk about how you realized your mom comes back, I guess, years later, one of your last, I think, stints in jail, and you realize that she was always, no matter what, she's always been there for you.
My mom was always there for me, whether she was giving me an ass whooping or whether she was taking my side. She would always tell me the truth. I respected a woman, but my mama comes from South Carolina. My mama was one that originated. My mama was a grandbaby of a slave. Wow. It's like my mama, left South Carolina with 8th grade education, man, and she came to Miami, where we call them city slickers back in the day. She came to Miami and raised 11 kids from 10 different men on her own with help. The only help she got was welfare, food stamps, and God. That's a strong woman.
In the book, you kind of, while talking about your life, you throw in some social commentaries where you talk about, I think, your sister being gay, the welfare system, prisons, etc. How'd you kind of figure out what you wanted to kind of, quote unquote, rant about, I guess, and not to make a commentary?
If I talked about a situation in my family, like my sister being gay, it's like my sister is proud to be gay, And I don't have a complex. I could be around a homosexual, I could be around a lesbian, and not work, and not have a complex. I won't watch my kids. I don't have a complex with people. Homosexuality, or it's not. You're not born with that. That's a way of life. That's a feeling. That's a comfort zone. And I just accept that because I remember growing up, my same sister, where all the boys wanted her. And she always would beat them up. And if I call her my sister right now, she'd be like, "Hold up, don't try me, man. I'm your brother," And I could talk about things that people wouldn't get offended or uncomfortable with dealing with my family and my past with no problem. As well as the food stamp and welfare, it was so easy in the late 70s and early 80s for a black woman to receive welfare and food stamps. You could tell them, "Oh, I was a prostitute, and I don't know who my baby daddy is," or "My baby daddy on drugs," and they would say, "Okay, here you go." Now, it's so hard to get it. So it's like, my role model was somebody that had a pocket full of money even when the bank was closed. I never had time to want to be like Mike. I wanted to be like Big Ike. Big Ike and Bo Dilly. It's like, and that's what the average kid in ghetto America, believe in. They believe in happiness. And whatever could have made me happy at that time, that's what I wanted to be. A child deserves their pictures, their holidays, their birthdays, their smiles and giggles, their jokes and laughter, their memories. Those are the biggest moments, the most important moments to a kid's life. And I really believe that society in itself, being a young black man born out of wedlock with a single parent mama in the ghetto, I think that robbed me of all those childhood days. I never really had a child to be a child.
What would people not know that you're doing, I guess, personally to kind of work on changing all that? Just trying to, change those ways, like not get those kids that are growing up like that.
I meant to talk to the little kids, the ones that's in jail, the ones that's on their way to jail, the ones that do silly crimes, pregnant teenagers, and I tell them my story. And I might not tell them in a way that 50% of them not going to respect nor like the tone of voice when I'm talking to them, but I'm talking to them in a way where if you don't respect what I said, that's because your mind is already made up, because you already, you know what I'm saying? Like, once somebody's mind is made up, we can't change their minds. We can't change the person's heart. Remember, it's like your heart controls your mind. And once they're to the point where I can't tell them nothing, that means they can't be helped. So I would try to go a little further into telling them what helped me help somebody else. Everything changes in life. Again, being illiterate, being ghetto, being self-centered, those things forever. Those things are forever, and you have to, read, you have to go back and check about that. A lot of people blame mama. Mama, it's because of you, because I'm on drugs. No. I would tell her, mama, you did your job, baby. You did your job, mama, auntie. You did your job. He want to be grown? Let him go be grown. He couldn't learn from my mistakes. He couldn't learn from his dad's mistakes. He couldn't learn from your mistakes. He want to learn from his own mistakes. And I forced it. I instill in their heart that everybody don't live through mistakes, And just because you ain't been to jail for robbery or been to jail for selling drugs, don't think you slicker than the law.
After writing this book and obviously having a moment, I think, to reflect back on your life, do you have any regrets?
I have no flaws in my career, my success as a musician, as an entertainer. I have no flaws and regrets in myself as a child of Eddie Pearl Pinkerton or Charles Young. I have no regrets. I have no cries to God.
Which song best defines Trick Daddy, the artist, and Maurice as the man?
Tupac's White Man's World, that's Maurice. Trick Daddy would be Dro in the Wind. When it says, because it talks about being a Geechee. And a lot of people don't know what Geechee means. Being a Geechee is, we grow up, we never had much, but we ate good, We looked good, we felt good. We would play baseball with any ball and any kind of stick. We would eat rice for every meal and some type of bread that's going to definitely fill you up. You know what I'm saying? So it would be for throwing away and in the white man world.
Trick Daddy, thanks so much for joining us on WBAI and You Don't Stop.
Any other questions or anything, you make sure you call me back.
Everyone, make sure to check out that book. It's called Magic City, Trials of a Native Son. It's written by Trick Daddy and Peter Bailey. Trick named 2 songs, but I have to go out with one of my favorite songs by Trick Daddy called Children's Song. Trick, thanks so much for joining us on WBAI 99.5 and You Don't Stop. This is Tim Einenkel with At the Library with Tim Einenkel. Back to you, Chuck. Peace.
My little girl's a little lady. And though she often that crazy, she's still my baby. And I anticipate the day that I can see the smile on her face when she bring little Hold on. You gotta believe me. That's right. Here to show you the way, okay. Here to show you the way. Just leave. Shine your heart. America has a problem. You see, the problem with the world is that there's way too many faces and way too many races. They didn't even manage to modernize slavery. They cloning little babies. These people going crazy. White America's on high alert. Black America still starving, living in public housing. You're still eating off your food stamps. That's why 1 out of every 3 black boys end up in boot camp. And not to mention the ones we'll be missing. But let's face it, everybody can't make it. And everybody won't escape it. But if it's thug life we live, then thug life it is. And just remember, something gotta give. That's why so many dying, so little live. I can't explain it, but that's how.
Hey, it's Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, Record Store Day founder Carrie Colleton is joining us to discuss the April 20th RSD special releases.
Plus, we'll talk live with our audience, the Sound Up Pod Squad, and find out who still listens to vinyl. And some updates from the Beatles universe.
Oh, good. Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Chris Hahn, the Aggressive Progressive. Check out a new episode of the Aggressive Progressive podcast every Tuesday. You know, the election is heating up just as the year is winding down. Stick with me. I'll tell you the truth as I see it. Download the Aggressive Progressive on Pandora or wherever you get your podcasts.